We may have more people look at it online later.
Okay.
So go ahead and do it. We appreciate your time. But for those of you who don't know Stephen Phelps, he is our representative from the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, handles all of the investments for our endowment fund, and he also helps with gift planning. So any individual that has specific questions about some of the things that Steve's going to talk about and some of the things that our speaker talked about last week, Stephen is our go-to guy. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Stephen.
Well, thank you. We hope some more people show up. But for those of you that haven't seen it, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Oops, wait. Gotta put that back down. Have to share your screen first. There we go. All right, we tested it out earlier. You should all be seeing Being Bold, Faithful, New Ways to Give. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay, my question to you guys, I guess you don't want to see my stuff on the left-hand side. So I'll go here to, come on, slideshow, there we go. From the beginning, perfect. Okay.
From the beginning.
What's that? There we go, from the beginning. So why do people give? Most people give because in the past, they wanted a tax break. And tax breaks come in many different forms. Tax breaks can come for charitable deduction. But since we kind of changed up the rules in 2018 on our taxes, having those tax breaks for some really don't mean anything anymore, because with the itemized deduction for a married couple now being $24,000, you've got to have a lot before you get up there to that. And we've taken out, and I've got a tax slide here that's going to come up in a moment. Here we go. When we put these into force in 2018, as you can see, the standard deduction went to $24,000 for a married couple. State and local taxes are capped at 10. Interest on primary and secondary residences and loans is $75,000 less. The child tax credit was raised at $2,000, but phases out at $400,000 for incomes of couples, $200 for others. No personal exemptions. That was a big one. I know, we always want to say, consult your tax advisor, especially when you are considering a charitable gift where you're looking for tax savings. And we're going to talk about some ways that you can minimize that taxation here in some of my next up slides. So the rule, givers give. We give because we want to. We give because we believe in a mission. We give because we want to share the bounty that Christ has given us and our family and our loved ones throughout our lives with others that do not have, or missions that are very, very important to us. We give annually. We give in the collection plate at church. Here in this time of the pandemic, that's become a difficulty for many congregations. Oops, it's going to go on a time now. I'm going to switch back. I've forgotten that there's a timer on this. I'm going to go back to this if y'all don't mind. That's okay. It's on a timer and I don't want to waste time putting the timer off. So if you don't mind, you can still see it. You're just going to see my little slides over here so you know what's coming up. The magic of technology. So annual gifts, we give in the collection plate, and I don't know what Trinity's experience is right now, but my own congregation, Bethel, we've actually seen gifts increase because people are able to give easier online. That's how they're having to do it right now. And lo and behold, they tend to give a little bit more when it's online. It seems like it's easier for it to come out of the credit card or checking account versus putting it in the collection plate. Now, are people still mailing checks in? Absolutely. But it's been a challenge, and I'm sure it's been a challenge for your church as well. But most folk within our congregation do annual gifts either through a tithe or through their annual giving through their congregation. That's usually the most effective, or I shouldn't say most effective. It's the largest bounty of what a congregation receives is through annual giving. There we go. Special gifts. This is where we give, where we receive something in the mail, like from World Hunger or from Lutheran Disaster Response or the American Red Cross or any other charity that is important to you. We give a special gift to help some type of cause or some type of mission that is important to us and our family. We also give legacy gifts, and that's what I'm here to talk about. how do we change the world? So how can we give through our estate? Well, if we want to start giving through our estate right here and now, there is the wonderful thing that's just most hottest on and still one of the most exciting vehicles for giving is the donor advised fund. The donor advised fund through the ELCA is a irrevocable gift. So once you open the account, that account money stays with us, but you get the tax deduction for the initial amount where you open it up at 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. And then every time that you make deposits into it, again, up to 60% of AGI in any one current year. However, that's been increased under the CARES Act just through December 31st. Whether or not they will allow that increase in charitable giving to go on into 2021, we don't know. We've got to see the next stimulus that comes out, and if this portion of the CARES Act will carry forward in any new stimulus package that comes out of Congress in either here between now and the end of the year or when the new administration takes over in 2021. Qualified charitable distribution. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. It's nicknamed the QCD. The qualified charitable distribution is where you can give out of your IRA, and it must be an IRA. It can't be a 403B. You can give out of a 403B, but you would have to take your required minimum distribution and flip it into a qualified IRA, 401k, traditional type of retirement vehicle, not the 403B, unfortunately. But you would have to put it into that and then give out your QCD. What's important about the qualified charitable distribution is it's up to $100,000 maximum. That is a permanent allowance. That was changed several years ago. I want to say it was back in 2015 or 2015 when they made it permanent. And we've been waiting for this for a long time, so they were having to reauthorize it every year. But you have up to $100,000 that you can give out of your required minimum distribution. You can start doing it at 70 and a half. However, the rules did change again with the CARES Act, where they now are allowing you to not have to start taking your RMD until 72. So you can push it back. Now you can do a QCD out of it and still not take your required minimum distribution at 70 and a half. However, you can't be having monies put into your account still and be able to do that. So again, get with your tax advisor on that. There's some ticky little rules in there about that. But what's good about this is that as long as the money comes straight out of your 401k, traditional IRA, to the charity, you can't touch the money. So you can't take that 100,000, take it as cash, and then give it as a charitable gift. The only thing you would get is the deduction, but you would be fully taxed on it. If you give it as a QCD, there is no tax to either yourself or the charity, because charity is a 501c3. It must be a 501c3 that you give the money to, and it must come from your holder. So let's say you're at Portico or you're at AG Edwards or wherever that's got your 401k. The money must come directly from your 401k and go directly to the charity. Any questions about that? This slide is an example. I want to go back real quick. Yeah. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention, you can use a QCD to set up a memorial endowment fund with the Elca Foundation. And we'll be talking about memorial endowment funds here in just a moment. So the next giving vehicle that's very popular still is the charitable gift annuity. It offers tax deductions at the time of the gift, the ability to give appreciated securities and partial tax-free income from the annuity payments that you would receive every year for the remainder of your life. We allow one annuitant and two annuitant gift annuities. We also do flexible gift annuities where you can play a little bit with the rate that you get and when you start taking the payment. It gives you a fixed income once you open the annuity based on the charitable gift annuity rates and does not change once issued. Any questions about that? Oh, you guys are a good group. So how does a charitable gift annuity work? Again, if it's an immediate charitable gift annuity, you would get a estimated $4,000 and $1,100 tax deduction. You get immediate income. You would get a 0.4% payment, and I believe we are basing this on someone who is 72 years old at a single life. So you can have up to 5 charities that you could distribute the money to at the end of the term or at your death. If you did a flexible gift annuity, the pane on the right-hand side there, the tax deduction would be $4,478. Future income up to 10 years. As you can see, the rate kind of floats a little bit. They're using a example. If you start taking it 75, $445 would be tax-free. 184 of that payment would be ordinary income. And then at the end of that annuity, based on $10,000 over the lifetime of the year of payouts, it would probably give out about $6,801 to the charity. So really what we're hoping always for is that the annuity is going to not only beat inflation, but grow. So it's making up for its payments that it's giving out. And we usually like to see about between 60 to 75% of the original corpus go on to the charity. These are just some of the ideas of rates of what age you started at and where. This is based on our 2020 Association of Charitable Gift Annuity table of what the rate would be, what the payment would be, the tax-free portion, ordinary income. Qualified retirement accounts. So a lot of folks like to give out their qualified retirement account. And that's one of the biggest assets that people have next to their real estate. And when folks give out of that, of course, when you take your IRA distribution starting at 70 and a half, this has been growing tax-free for all the years that you've had it. You're going to start paying income tax on that distribution. So, you know, as you take that out, you're going to start paying the tax that you hadn't paid while it was invested. In this situation, for simplicity's sake, we're going to look at a family that's got $1 million locked up in their IRA, and they've got $1 million of other assets. Well, here in Missouri, we don't collect inheritance tax unless it's an individual and you've got like over 12 million, or if it's a couple, it's 24. Excuse me. So anything down there in homes, cards, bank accounts is going to pass tax-free to your family or your heirs. The red lines up there above where you see the IRA, the inherited IRA, one of the things that happened out the CARES Act, if you're not familiar with it, is that they used to be able to take it, used to have to take your distributions from an inherited IRA, not a spousal IRA, but an inherited. That would be your niece, nephews, sons, daughters, or any other person that's not a legal spouse. They're going to have to pay tax on that. They could either take it in a lump sum or they could spread it out over their lifetime. That's been capped now at 10 years. So you're either going to have to take it in a lump sum, pay the tax up front, or you can spread it out over 10 years, reduce the tax burden a little bit, but you're still going to have to pay it. You're going to have to take it in 10 years. So an IRA gift to charity and family. So this is the same type of scenario, except this family decided it wanted to give 10% tithe at death with this IRA. So the 10 years distribution, as you can see, they're going to get $90,000 a year for the next 10 years, but they're going to have to pay tax on that. And down there in the million with the Homes Card Bank, that all passes tax free. So that's why you're seeing the 1.9 million eventually to the family. However, the family is going to have to pay tax on that 900,000 because it's coming out of an IRA. The only person that wouldn't have to pay on that, of course, is the spouse. The spouse would pay on it when they start taking it out at 70 and a half. So how can you get around that? Well, we can get around the CARES Act because you can do a testamentary trust or a CRT, charitable remainder trust. Same type of situation here where we've got the million in the IRA and the million in in other assets. That all passes tax free. But as you can see in this example, if they were to take that $1 million IRA and put it into a unit trust, the payments, instead of being taken up in 10 years, it would be spread out to 20-year distributions, 5% a year. So that instead of getting 90,000, you're getting about 49,000 or $50,000. But what's great about it is that's invested, and over time, you can see the gift before on the tithe was 100,000 to charity. Now it could potentially be almost $1 million. So I don't want to call it give it twice trust, but the way that our markets have been going, and if the investments stay sound, which with the ELCA Foundation they tend to do, it is quite possible that this scenario could be reached. Any questions about this?
Stephen, just to point out, if anyone is interested in this, it's obviously a pretty complicated, and so we're not expecting anyone who doesn't know this to grasp it, but you're always available for more in-depth conversation about something like this.
Absolutely. Especially we can do it one-on-one. We can do it like a Zoom like this. I am allowed to travel within a 2-hour radius of St. Louis. So Trinity would be included in that 2-hour radius. I have met with a few people, socially distanced, of course. We met at Panera Bread and sat about 6 feet apart out on the patio. So, you know, we can always do that as well. But you know, if you're on this Zoom call now, we can do a Zoom again. So it's really easy. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Paul. So going on around this, as you can see, this type of situation where you're taking your IRA and putting it into trust does have immediate tax implication for your heirs and allows you to give a much larger gift to Trinity or whatever other mission or ministry God is calling you to support. So I'm almost done here. If by chance you didn't want to do any other short examples that I had, and those aren't the only vehicles of gifting that we have at our disposal. We have a whole, you know, bench worth of, you know, trusts, annuity trusts, remainder trusts, the charitable gift annuity, the qualified charitable distribution, the donor advised fund, and gifts of security and stock. There are, you know, many different ways we can do that. But at the basic, if you had $1 million in your estate and you wanted 90% of that to go to your family, that's going to go to them tax-free. The only thing that's going to be taxed is that IRA that's in a qualified plan, 403B, 401k. Anything that is pre-tax money that's been earning, that's what's going to get taxed. It can go to the spouse tax-free, but they will eventually pay it when they start taking the distribution. Family members have to take it immediately. And you have to ask yourself, is my 30-year-old son or daughter ready for a windfall of $900,000? And some may be, some may not. And that's where having a really good estate plan comes in, because you can not only protect them, but you can protect the most important thing that you have, which is the assets that you leave behind. And having that plan in place means you decide how it's done before you pass. And you can make sure that all of the missions, all of the loved ones, anything that's important to you gets handled the way that you want to handle it. And that's what I'm here to help you do. So in $1 million estate, same thing. This is the 10% tithe again. This is just a straight up, I love you, Will type of thing where $900,000 goes to the family. They have 3 kids, $300,000 to each child. 10% tithe goes to ministry. Of course, on that side, what I would be recommending is if they've got anything that they're going to give to charity, let's give it out of the IRA, because that's going to go tax-free. That's less tax burden to the family. Questions? I did that in 15 minutes, man. I'm proud of myself.
Wow.
So, Stephen, could you just talk for a minute about how the ELCA Foundation interacts with obviously all the organizations, and in particular Trinity Lutheran Church?
Sure. About that. The ELCA Foundation, as I was talking with you all before we started the meeting, for those that join later, I work as your regional gift planner. My background is in fundraising and fund development. I've been doing it for over 30 years. I am an estate planner, and our title with the ELCA Foundation is Regional Gift Planner. So I have several different, if you want to call bosses, so to speak. I do work for the ELCA Foundation. We are a separately incorporated ministry of the ELCA. So we exist to do 2 things. One is we are a manager of funds. We manage the ELCA endowed pooled trust, or Fund A, F-U-N-D-A, as we like to call it. It's really called the Endowed Pooled Trust for the ELCA, if you want to go for the long terminology. Fund A is a endowed pooled trust, which means it is over 1,000 separate trusts all pooled into one. And we manage those trust assets for ELCA congregations, synods, and ELCA aligned ministries of the greater church. So like Lutheran Family, or not Lutheran Family Church, Lutheran Social Services of Illinois, Central State Synod, Arkansas Oklahoma Synod, Trinity Lutheran Church has their endowment invested with us. And the foundation exists to manage that pool of money through our socially minded investing strategy. And so it's a socially invested pool along and aligning with the teachings of the ELCA. And that pooled trust is worth about 860 million right now. We're getting ever so close to that 1 billion in assets. And if the markets are kind to us, and we will get on the other side of this pandemic, if we add up all of the assets that we currently manage, Fund A, our Charitable Gift Annuity Trust, and some of the other funds of monies that we have on our donor advised funds and our CGA pool, we're getting over 900 million. So we're getting very close to that 1 billion in asset. But I would like to see Fund A get to over 1 billion as well. And eventually we will. That'll happen. That's one of the things that the foundation does. The other thing that the foundation does is support 17 regional gift planners like myself. I cover Central States, which is our Synod, Missouri, Kansas. I work with Bishop Candia, who is based in Kansas City. I also represent Arkansas and Oklahoma, which is based out of Tulsa, and that is Bishop Michael Gerlinghouse. I also provide support to the New England Synod up in the New England area. So we, through our 17 regional gift planners, and then we also have some extended partnerships with the Lutheran Foundation of the Southwest. That's in Texas and Louisiana. They chose not to join their foundation with the ELCA Foundation when the ELCA was founded in 1988. They decided to stay a separate entity, but they work in partnership with us. The same applies to North Dakota and Nebraska. They also have their own separate endowment pools that they manage within their synods, but they also work in partnership with the ELCA. So as a regional gift planner, it's my job to work with you all as congregations, because you are in partnership with us through virtue of the Synod. The Synod is also in a partnership with the ELCA Foundation. And I also work as the estate planner and plan giving officer for the Central State Synod, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Bethany College out in Lindsborg, all of the Lutheran campus ministries within our 2 synods that I represent. Camp Tomashinga, which is our camp out in Junction City. I also work with Lutheran Family and Children's Service here in St. Louis. They cover most of the state of Missouri except for Kansas. I work with Metro Lutheran Ministries in Kansas. I work with a wonderful organization called Oaks Indian Mission in Oaks, Oklahoma, which works with the Cherokee peoples. That was started by the Moravians, which we're still in partnership with the ELCA. And then finally, I work with our 2 synods, Wartburg Seminary out of Dubuque, Iowa, and Lutheran School of Theology in Chicago. So my job is to make estate giving and estate planning easier by offering our services free and confidential to any ELCA member of a congregation. That's what I kind of do.
Okay. So it's been a good partnership. Our endowment is, as endowments go, relatively new, but making great progress. So we're going to do our part to help you get to that $1 billion mark.
You guys have done an amazing job since I started working with y'all in 2014. And I think back then your endowment was like 70,000. And you're well over 200,000 now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, actually it was around 45,000, around 40,000 or so when we first started.
Wow.
And I think Fund A was around 400 million, something like that. 400 or 500?
It's closer to 650.
Then
2014.
We're about 350 now. And,
Oh my goodness.
and spending, I think last year we supported various agencies to the amount of $10,000. And
Right.
we've seen the amount grow every year. And of course, that's the whole purpose of it. And we couldn't do it without the Elca Foundation. So we thank you for your help, and we thank you for today.
Yes.
We'll give everybody one last chance if there's any questions.
Yeah, a couple of the instruments that you talked about, the CGA, there's a couple others. Is there a minimum value that, people need to commit to, I guess?
Yes, and actually, it's nice that you asked that. I'm going to share my screen one more time very quickly, and I'm going to make this available to you all. I will send this out to you. Let me blow this up so you can see it. There we go. I'll move this down here so I can do it. There we go. So if you look across the top here, where you see my little hand, there's charitable gift annuity, charitable remainder trust, annuity trust, donor director distribution agreement, donor advised fund, named endowment, or an outright gift request. If you look down the left-hand side, it's saying, I want to do this. And down along the bottom here at the very bottom is the minimum, Steve, that you were talking about.
Okay.
And so I'll share this. I'll be sure and send this to the email address that you all gave me earlier, and make sure that you all get a copy of that. It's a really handy dandy way to look at what I want to do. Do I want an income or not? And what type of gift do I want to make? What vehicle do I want to use? And then the minimums are along the bottom. Now, there are some that we didn't include on that screen. Those ones along the top are the most popular, and the ones that do the, I don't want to say the most good, but the ones that folks usually choose. But we do have other ones. There's real estate and whatnot that also make great charity gifts. The other thing that we're really interested in is gifts of grain and or other types of marketable securities. We can also handle those. I have a one-pager on gifts of grain. That if you happen to know somebody that's still farming, and they've got a bunch of soybeans that they haven't sold, we can buy those, and those count as a charitable gift. So that's something that's kind of new on the horizon for us right now.
That's interesting.
Yes.
It's a pretty specialized niche there. But,
oh yeah, but you know what? Now, mind you, soybean prices right now are really depressed, unfortunately. But corn, wheat, any of that, we've had several substantial gifts out in the Nebraska area from Lutheran farmers, those Lutheran farmers out there in Nebraska, those good Swedish Lutherans that have done gifts of grain, and they are very, very significant gifts. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
it seems biblical, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
There's something biblical about donating grain.
Well, there's the whole story about the farmer and his silos and whatnot. Very telling. God gives us gifts in many different ways. God gives us, our time and our labor and our toil, but also gifts that come from the soil. And if you've got, several 100,000 bushels of soybeans sitting that you don't need this year, you're going to have to pay tax on. Wouldn't it be better to give it as a gift and not pay the tax, and it's just gone? And so we can make that work. So that's an interesting one, but we're willing to do that. But Stephen, I'll get that out to you guys here as soon as we're done so that you have it. You also have a copy of my presentation. Were you taping this? Yes, you were. So, if someone wants to rewatch and hear me chat, I hope they do. But I hope that you all, by seeing my presentation again, I don't know if Peter had seen the whole one or not. Had you seen it all in its entirety before, Peter?
No, I haven't. But I did have a quick question just to follow up. Do you have like a white paper talking about the pros and the cons about all the different opportunities that you offer?
Yes, I'll include that as well. I've got one pages. We don't necessarily go into the cons. We really talk about the pros. There's really no, in any, and we get nothing out of it at the Elca Foundation. I'm not a commissioned person. This is the mission of the church. So we are here to service you. Yes, the foundation does make money. It makes money off the spread between Fund A and what we pay back in distribution of the 4% to you all. And then there are some fees for like the fee on Fund A, which is 1.04. And then there is fee on our remainder trust, and I think that's like 1%. Or it's aligned with Fund A because that's where we invest our remainder trusts. But we talk about the pros. I think the con might be, or if there's a downside to a gift, is that vehicle the best one for you? And so that's what our one-pagers and our white papers talk about, is here are the benefits. Are those benefits what you're looking for? And is that the best resource or vehicle for you to make that gift? So in that instance, I hope that answers your question, Peter.
No, absolutely. That's what I was getting at in regards to con is, you know, if you're thinking of going down this path, this might be a better option because of
Right.
X, Y, Z.
You know, the biggest drawback or, you know, negativity of any type of gift or estate plan is, number one, not doing it and having it in place. And number two, dying intestate and not having a will. That's the two biggest challenges we in the ELCA face. You know, only about 45%, it's up a little bit, it used to be 40, only about 45% of Lutherans actually acknowledge that they even have a will. That's staggering, but that's right along with, you know, what it is in the United States. That number has been creeping up, however, this last year because of the pandemic. Unfortunately, and fortunately on one side, believe it or not, we have seen a lot of gifts come to realization this year, sadly, because people have passed prematurely. So that's money that's flowing into the church. However, what we've also noticed is that some of these gifts were delayed because the family member did not have a will. And so it's got to go through probate. And probate right now is kind of hard to do because, you know, courts are not always in session. So that's why it's ever more important. If you don't have a will, please get one. If you do have a will and you haven't looked at it recently, pull it out and look at it and look at these three things. Make sure that it's signed and witnessed. Make sure that if you've done some updating, if you've done a addition to the will, make sure that you have signed and dated that, and make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. But remember, anything that you pass asset-wise through a will is going to be probated. Everything. So that's why it's so important to, along with your will, if you've got an IRA, if you've got an insurance policy, if you've got a house, if you've got a boat, if you've got cars, you want to be sure that those trust or those beneficiary lines on all of those instruments are filled out, because then it bypasses probate and goes directly to that beneficiary, whether it be an individual or a charity. It passes outside the will. And that's what you want to do. You can do that with your bank account, your stock account, all of it. Doesn't have to go through the will. You can mention it, but they're going to follow the beneficiary designation. The problem is if they didn't fill out a secondary designation, and many times here recently, we've had both parents or family members die from COVID at the same time. Then the cross to the surviving spouse is over. And if they didn't fill it out, it goes to the estate and then it goes to probate. You don't want that. So make sure that you do that, pass that along as you talk with your folks on your committee. And I'd be happy to guide them through that process as well. It's very simple. You can do most beneficiary designations online right now today. You get off this call and go to, you know, AG Edwards or wherever and pull up your beneficiary statement. If it's not fit out the way you want to, you can change it.
Okay.
That's my statement on that. It's very important. But yeah, I'll get you the white papers. Any other things?
Anything else?
Yeah.
Well, we'll let everyone get on with their day. Thank you one more time, Stephen. We appreciate it. Very helpful.
It's my pleasure. You guys are the best. You know, I always used to tell Steve Paquette, you know, I hold up Trinity all the time when I'm out and about when I was traveling, and we will travel again. You know, I hold up Trinity and what you guys have done with your endowment to churches that are starting on the road, just like you guys did several years ago. And you guys are just a shining example of what a congregation can do through endowed giving and having a trust. And you're doing it right. You guys continue to do it right. And, you know, God bless you and God bless each of you. Stay safe, stay healthy. And like I said, you know, all my contact information is on the presentation, and it's in my emails. And I'll send you, Paul, the additional documentation so you can share it with your congregation or whatnot.
Great.
Okay.
And
Thank
all
you.
of our stuff is at elca.org/foundation. You can find all the stuff that I talked about on our website.
Okay. Thank you.
Stephen?
Great. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're also welcome. God bless. Take care.
Take